through really quick. Um, and it's hoping that having these notes will make our experience a little less excruciating. Sheila Hamilton is our meetings Zoom master. We have nobody on phone right now, is that correct? Okay. So we will just focus on the video. Sheila will be monitoring the chat window off to the side if you have any questions while the meeting is going on. Sheila and Ethan will monitor the chats. And if you have any technical questions, Ethan and Sheila can help you with that. So seeing as how we're just all together on the screens, I guess we don't need to do attendance for those on the phone, Sheila. So you're okay to take attendance with those who are on the screen?
Yes, I've got it.
Okay. The Zoom meeting is being recorded. So please be mindful of what you say, and you might want to consider your actions as well, because everything will be taped.
Sorry, Laura, can I just add? I'll put the video up on our YouTube channel afterwards. So if you want to go back and look to see if you missed anything, or if you know anyone who wanted to be here but couldn't, they can look on the YouTube channel to get catched up.
Perfect. Thank you, Ethan. Awesome. So mute and unmute. Sheila and Ethan both have the power to mute. So let's be careful of the words we speak. Okay, I don't have to talk about the mute buttons. You may unmute yourself when you are ready to talk. So we would ask, we're going to ask that you physically raise your hand if you have a question, and hopefully my eyes will just keep scanning so that I can catch who has a question. Sheila and Ethan are also my eyes in case we get a few people in a row and we need to keep people in order so that everybody gets a chance to speak. Once you've been acknowledged to speak and you've unmuted yourself, we would ask that you just, in case somebody does come on who is on the phone, if you could say who you are before you speak, then everybody will know who's present. When it is time for you to speak and you choose to do so, everybody gets 2 minutes. That's sort of a standard time for commenting or asking questions in regard to any of the motions. Voting. When it comes time to vote, I'm going to ask all of those who are in favor, and we would ask you again to signify by a raising of your own hand and not the hand in the reactions. I will ask people, all those in favor, those opposed, and those abstaining. Everyone is present, no one is on phone. Who may vote? We acknowledge the votes of those over 16 years of age. So our beloved Meadow and Elizabeth Hannah, if she's lurking around somewhere, our young people, we want to hear your voice. But according to charity law and the law, the canons, that the age is 16 for voting. Okay, I wish to remind us all that as we head into this virtual meeting time together, we are indeed doing the business of our charitable organization, knowing and well aware that we are the church, the people of God. I'm going to ask us all to remember we are beloveds of our Creator God, and each one of us is the face, voice, and heart of Christ. So I pray that we can all be respectful in our actions and in our words. Before we head into our opening devotion, does anyone have to vote? Could we, by a show of hands, say,
Lori, could you
raise your
repeat
hands if you
yourself? You glitched out
understand?
there. Could you repeat yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if anyone has any questions in regards to Zoom and how we speak and don't speak for the meeting. So a show of hands, everybody all good to go? Excellent. I will say one other thing. Sometimes there is a delay, so give people a chance to speak, and let's try not to jump on top of everybody. All right, let us turn to our opening devotions that are on the inside of the report page. Now, Catherine.
I don't know, did Vicki make it into the meeting?
Nope, not yet.
Okay, Lori, I did pull out a Bible. I've got the reading for the devotions, if you wish.
Thank you. That would be lovely. Thank you. All right, let us pray. Gracious God, we ask for your presence with us as we gather to meet virtually. This last year has been challenging. Help us still to celebrate the ministry we have done together in the past year. Give us vision and hope as we plan for our shared future, and give us courage to follow you in all we do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Our reading from 1 Corinthians.
Our reading comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, beginning at verse 4. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude, it is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. And now these three things remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Hear what the Spirit is saying to the church today.
Thanks be to God. As we gather to meet, be with us, God. We praise you for your faithfulness. Be our wisdom and counsel. Guide our decision making. We put our trust in your faithfulness. Give us courage to envision your future for us. We thank you for your steadfast love. Help us to be loving with each other and with all we meet. As we gather today, be with us, God. May all that we do and say today be pleasing in your sight. Amen. All right, I will invite us to turn to the agenda that is in your report. I'm going to begin with the declaration. So due to COVID restrictions on gatherings, the persons named below attended either in person via Zoom or via Zoom phone network, with attendance being recorded by the chair and verified by the vestry clerk. This declaration is read and affirmed
think Lori's locked out. Am I?
Catherine, we can see you, but Lori seems to have gotten frozen there somehow.
And I specifically came to the church so as not to have this issue.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah?
Yeah, you seem to be back, Lori. Catherine, you're a little bit chunky in speech.
You know, I purposely packed up and came to the church so this wouldn't happen. All right, am I back?
You are back.
May I continue? To be read by the incumbent and acknowledged by all in attendance. I solemnly declare that I have been a member of the Anglican Church of Canada and of this congregation for at least 3 months, that I have attended regularly scheduled services of worship with this congregation at least 3 times in the past year, that I am of full age of 16 years, and that I have not voted as a member of any other vestry during the previous 3 months, nor do I intend to vote in any other vestry during the ensuing year. So that is the acknowledgement that we are all agreeing to. Bless you all. All right. Jen's having a hard time getting on, so I told her to message you, Sheila. The appointment of the vestry clerk. It is moved by Richard Bates and seconded by Catherine King that Judy McKay be appointed vestry clerk for the annual meeting dated February 21st, 2021. May I ask all of those in favor with a show of hands? Is that everyone? Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Brent, you didn't vote. Okay, all right, okay, sorry. All right, good stuff. I'm moving on to a motion to move item 15 to accommodate our guest. It is moved by Rick Bates and seconded by Catherine King that item 15, which is the renewal team report, be moved to a position in our agenda in order to accommodate our guest, David Krause, from the Congregational Development Office at the Toronto Diocese, so that he does not have to sit through our entire meeting. So when David arrives via Zoom, the report currently in discussion will be completed first, and then we will move the renewal team report, and then the meeting will resume where we left off before David came on. All in favor? It's everybody's hands. Okay, do I need to ask opposed? Awesome, thank you everyone. I come to the minutes of our meeting from last year, and I ask if there are any, oh, hold on a sec. It is moved by Sandy Donald and seconded by Shirley Johnson that we adopt the minutes for the annual general meeting. Are there any errors or omissions? All right. Then before I ask for a vote to receive the minutes. I know there was just one item that Rick is going to speak to. Richard Bates, where did the Bateses go? Hey, Rick, over to you. We're at the discussion and clarification of reconciling in Christ in the minutes.
Too many, there's too much. Can you hear me at all?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. We lost you for a minute.
All good.
Oh, everything's coming back. My pictures are coming back. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about, just after Vestry last year, I did receive upwards of nearly half a dozen letters that has concerns about the motion reconciling in Christ. You'll find that on page 2 of the minutes, right in the middle. And basically, there were a number of little concerns which we don't need to deal with today, but there were two main problems pointed out in the minutes. And with regard to the motion reconciling in Christ, the biggest concern that came forward was the vote legal? And when I got the letters last year after the meeting, I know myself at the meeting, I sat on stage as chair, and the vote from my perspective was certainly overwhelming. So when I got the letters, I did check with, had a spotter at the back of the room in case we did need to do a count on a tie, and they confirmed that the vote was overwhelming. They said there was one small pocket where hands didn't go up, but it was overwhelming. I did, Madam Chair, then go back through the vestry meetings from the previous 5 vestries just to see how the church votes. And it's normally the motion is all in favor and the hands go up, and then the chair declares it carried. So that is what we followed last year. That's what we've done for a number of years. So when I took all this into account, I honestly feel the vote last year on that motion was a carried motion, even though you didn't ask whether anyone was opposed or not. We know a few were opposed, but as I said, it was certainly overwhelming. So I just pointed out in council's submission here, we felt the vote last year was a fair vote. Now, the second item that came out was just basically that some in the group felt that we are a very welcoming community and there was really no need to fly the pride flag. Now, that's not up for debate today, but I just would say to anybody that's here today that sent a letter in, I certainly had intended dealing with it last year, but with COVID, certainly we didn't get around to anything. So I will undertake to Lori and anybody that wrote that before June this year, I'll undertake to have a meeting either personally with each of those 5 people or as a group, whatever they want to do, and we'll try to come to a better understanding of what the motion meant and how the churches how our church will be dealing with it. So that's all I wanted to say before you vote on the minutes.
Thank you, Rick. Yeah, always place for more discussion. So nothing is ever an absolute. You know, there's always place for more clarification. Okay, so motion to adopt, as I said, it was moved by Sandy, seconded by Shirley, that we adopt the minutes for the annual meeting of 2019, dated February 2nd, 2020. All of those in favor? Thank you. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? All right. Thank you. So when we come back, we will pick up at item number 6. But right now, our special guest has arrived. Hello, David Krause.
Hello, Lori. It's so good to be here with you all this morning.
Welcome. Welcome to St. David. We are going to ask you to flip ahead to the report of the renewal team, and you will find that on page 15 of the annual report. You have all had an opportunity. Oh, no, it's not. Sorry, page 18. The renewal team report. You all had a chance to read through this report. You found out what we learned from our neighbors, what we learned from the congregation. Where does this lead us, and what do we do next? So our purpose today is just to have a conversation about the report, and to look at some of the short-term goals and the long-term goals, knowing full well that the renewal team came together to do the research, to find out the information that we needed to find. And I will tell you this, that even after we have done this report, I have received even more information. So what we talk about here today is, this discussion is not a done deal. There is more to come and more discussion for us to have. I think before I just open the floor to any questions, I'm just going to put David on the spot. David, could you just give us a little brief rundown of what it's been like stepping into and beside and with St. David, and the work that we have done and what still needs to be done?
Thanks, Lori. Absolutely. Gosh, in pre-pandemic times, which seems both just like yesterday and a lifetime ago, I got together with some folks, visited your parish. When was it? It's been a while ago now. And just listening to some of the things that your congregation is trying to sort and sift through to discern, sort of your future in taking up God's ministry in your neighborhood, and the ways that might be made possible. So one of the things that we talked about with what became this renewal team was to take up a resource that the diocese has put together for parishes called Mission Action Planning. And this is a resource that is used in other denominations, in other places across Canada, and also especially in the United Kingdom. And it's really made up, I would say, of 3 pieces. So the first is doing that necessary work to listen to your neighbors, to your context, to discern what God might be trying to tell you about the needs, the possibilities for relationships, the kind of changes that may have occurred in your context for ministry. And then the other piece is, and this was something that I know that you folks had taken up a number of times in recent years, looking at existing ministries in the church, setting some goals, thinking about internally how you structure the work that you all take up together as church. And then the third part is, from those 2 pieces, doing the work necessary to discern um, that thing that God might be calling us to in the future, and how we kind of stretch to this new phase of life as a church, as a congregation, as God's people, where you are, that missional sort of stretch, as it were. And so I think there's been a presentation, if I'm right, Lori, of some of the results of this work. And I know that certainly I've been really, really impressed and really heartened with all the ministry that you folks take up, but also the possibilities for future ministry that could have some great continuity with what you have done now and in recent years, and possible future partnerships, or even reconfigurations, and maybe even redevelopments. So it's been a really neat journey. Obviously, made a lot more interesting and challenging by having to do this physically distance, but trying to maintain that social solidarity together.
Thank you, David. Yeah, this work has been eye-opening. We have been so used to being the church in one certain way, and now a lot of that is changing. So this is where we're finding out who we are in our neighborhood and what the needs of our neighborhood, what those needs are. I would like to open up for questions, for discussion, for either the renewal team or David. What are you all thinking? What's going through your minds? Ainsley.
I think one question that comes up for me is kind of the balance between building needs and the future, in terms of, like, I know that we need a new roof. We've had the kitchen redone. I guess the question is, looking forward, just how much money do we want to put into the building that exists, and how much money do we want to think about putting into a building that could replace this one? I don't know what that looks like. I haven't been part of those discussions, but that's just something that comes to my mind.
Thank you. Is everybody kind of clear about what the report says in regards to, short-term and mid-term goals, and then those long-term goals? Nobody.
Sorry, Nancy has her hand up.
Sorry, Nancy, go for it. Nancy,
I just wanted to respond to what Ainsley is saying. So, Ainsley, we did spend a lot of time wondering whether or not it was worth investing in a building that maybe potentially didn't fit the needs of our community. However, in discussion with David and understanding the diocese and their potential role in this, that's a really long way off. So we do need to address some of our building issues, because regardless of what happens, that's going to be our building for at least the next 3 years. And putting off some of those repairs, if we ignore them, then we don't have a building at all. So our building is worth investing in. Long term, does our building meet our needs and the needs of our neighbors? Probably not. But we need to be somewhere. So it does mean that we do need to, for short and midterm, we do need to invest in the building that we're in.
Thanks so much for the clarification, Nancy.
Rob?
Yeah, Julie just unmuted. Yeah, I think the presentation that Rick made to council that shows that the long-term trend has been that our revenues have gone down 2% a year and our expenses have gone up 2% a year over the last decade or so makes the point. And what's kept us afloat in that period, there's a nice diagram that Rick colored in, has been the school in the basement. And that is what has kept us afloat. However, there are a number of contradictions between certainly the long-term goals and, you know, we can't have our cake and eat it too. There are a whole bunch of activities we want to do which would preclude having a school in the basement. So there are things that have to be done. But my position at this point would be that things have changed considerably, and that, you know, maybe what we're being called upon to be now is patient. Things really have changed a lot. And well, for example, in the long-term goals, community specialized housing, 7 out of 8 of the Simcoe County housing are in South Ward. A number of us live in North Ward, and we know that there is virtually no social housing in North Ward. And at the same time, all of a sudden, the old Odie site is going to become incredibly expensive social housing. And right next door, the Y has surprisingly gone out of business and says it wants to do social housing. So maybe in terms of where we put our energies and where we put our priorities, we, you know, might have to be a bit patient. And I guess, well, you know, we're talking about in short to medium term, we're talking about vendor events and inviting people. And so it's going to be a while before we get back to that stage. And I guess the other thing in the report, it says there are incredible assistance available from both the Anglican and Lutheran churches. But I would like to know other congregations have gone through this reorientation where they put a church within a much larger structure. And I'd like a little more information on how those redevelopment efforts worked out for the congregations involved. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Rob. Some good points, right? I mean, we don't know everything. We don't have all of the information. And you're right, there would be the need. I mean, one of the component parts of the missional asset planning that we haven't been able to do, that's the town hall. That's the part where we bring in the counselors and, you know, the city planners and have an idea of the trend of our neighborhood and what's going on. I just quickly glanced at some maps that were sent our way, and they did the breakdown of financial stability in Aurelia. And we in the South, it's white, it's poverty. This area where St. David resides, and the richness is over in Westridge. The average household income, way high. So we still haven't sat down with all of those, with all of that information. So we do still have more work to do. And I think as we do that other work, it will help us too in the long-term goals, helping us figure out what exactly the needs of our neighborhood are. And we're not going to figure that out in a year. Anyone? Did anyone learn anything in this report that you didn't already know? I mean, I think the most of us have been aware of, you know, our finances and what's been going on. So do we want to hand in the keys back to the Anglican Church and say we're done? Sandy, do you have something to say? Unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry. I don't want to see us hand the keys to the church back to the Anglican Church. I just would like to have some idea. It says redevelopment sounds scary, and there's incredible assistance available from the diocese and from the Eastern Synod. I would like to know what kind of monetary contribution is the diocese willing to give us to help us do the things we have to do. I don't know if there are some things that I know that you can help, that some of the other churches are having their roof done and they're having this done and they're having that done. How do we get some of that money to help us do what we have to do to keep the church open so we can do all these things that our outreach does for this South Ward that we live in, and also like so that we can make bigger the things that we are allowed to do or can do for the area. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Rick. You good? Oh, you almost unmuted yourself. This is what tries our patience. You can't unmute.
Ethan or Sheila, could you help from your end?
For some reason, he's not able to unmute himself. Catherine?
You're unmuted right now.
Here you are, Rick.
Got it, Rick.
Okay. Every time I hit unmute, I lose the screen and everybody on it. So anyway, I think probably just too many on the meeting. What I wanted to say with renewal, we've come a number of years, as Rob says, patiently struggling from year to year to get things done. And I kind of agree with that format. There's lots we need to learn yet. There's lots of talking to do with the city, with everybody in the area, just on where our church is to go. And I think the biggest problem we have is we really don't have a cheerleader to keep this process going. And I think until the time we do find that cheerleader, I think we keep going the way we're going. I call it carrying on. I think Rob called it just being patient. Yes, the expenses are going up every year, givings are going down, but we always seem to manage by the end of the year to have money. Now, last year, at the start of the year, we know we need a new roof. We need it by the spring of this year, and we'll discuss that a little later. But last year at this time, we had planned on all our money and everything running out about this spring, and basically that would have meant the closing of the church. But lo and behold, the pandemic comes along. People gave more. The diocese went into Jubilee and lowered a lot of our costs. Anyway, to make things to a point, we planned on about a $9,000 debt at the end of 2020, and we ended up with a $33,000 surplus, or in that area. So there's the money for the roof. So even though we have a hard time planning year to year because of our revenue stream, at the end of the year, we always seem to have enough to keep the church going. So what I would like to see here is just thanking the committee for the report. I think it's a great start on this, and setting up another committee or the same members, if they're willing to just carry on and kind of go through the next stage. If we approve the roof today, there's no big rush then to carry on. We'll have the time to develop it properly. Anyway, that's all I had.
Thank you, Rick. Nancy Hanna?
So correct me if I'm wrong, any renewal team or David. So just to respond to Sandy's question about what supports are available, we as a congregation have to come together and put a plan together, take it to the diocese, and then they will tell us how they can support us. But we can't just say, help us, like how much money can you give us? We have to come up with a clear plan first. You know, and if that's sort of best case scenario, middle case scenario, worst case scenario, and then we see what fits best for them and us. But you know, as a renewal team, we've talked about what could possibly be done, but now as a congregation, we need to come together and say, okay, this is what makes the most sense for us, and this is what's most realistic, and this is how we would like to tackle it, and then that's how we get the help. So to answer your question, we don't know what help is available because we haven't come up with a plan about what we want to do as a church yet.
Thank you, Nancy. So yes, there is, going forward, there is potential for us. I had an Anglican colleague reach out and say, you know, they're over in Pinatangwasheen, and they're like, we believe, we watch everything that St. David does, and St. David is a model for us, and it invites us and encourages us to do ministry where we are. So I got a phone call from them, and one of their people from their congregation sits on the grant committee. And Sue is willing to work with us. She's like the professional grant writer, and she's willing to work with St. David and help us find what grants that we could apply for, and will help us work with the grants, which I think that's kind of one area that has been missing from our faith family, is the ability to do that work. So I think I just want to say, fear not. There are lots of people whose eyes are on the mission and the ministry of St. David, and they want to help. And I know it drives all the accountants crazy, but it is true, right? We set out numbers. We don't know how it is, but by some miracle, we make our numbers at the end of the year, and that's stuff you can't put on paper, and that's what drives the accountants crazy, right, David? David, have you heard anything this morning that you would like to comment or correct or?
Sure. Yeah. I heard a lot of great and really pertinent questions. I thought some good points from Ainsley, from Sandy, Richard, Robert, and I think there was probably a couple of other. I was just kind of trying to make notes as we went along. But it's so one of the things that just speaking, so the major decision-making body in sort of the Anglican side of the church is really diocesan council. So that's a body made up of both clergy and lay members who serve a term, and in partnership with the bishops. they would be making decisions on things like, grants, certain kinds of financial assistance. But as Nancy helpfully pointed out, you have to make a case and submit it and have a plan. So prior to the pandemic, what the intent was to have the mission action plan serve as the basis for a plan, to be able to make a case for support. And then we had a global pandemic. Part of the big commitment on the part of the diocese was to do the Jubilee, which is a pretty big ticket for us. And I think it was a real gift to a lot of congregations, and for us together as the church, just to kind of get through this and share resources. It at least in the near term, has had some impact on certain kinds of financial assistance we can offer. But as far as Nancy's point about a plan, I would say that there have been other congregations somewhat similar to yours, who have made successful applications for what we would call sort of a phase one assessment for a redevelopment plan, which I know was one of the things that was part of your the goals that you had set. So that would be not just from the sake of, and I think Ainsley, you made some really good points about the ministry side of things, not just from the point of sort of property and building, but that together with both the ministry and the community partnerships that might be pursued to make something a sustainable endeavor. And so, that would be sort of going to an outside contractor who's a specialist in this, and they could provide a report that could lead to some future work. So that's certainly something that, $5,000+ dollars, it's something, and could at least get you to the next stage. But I would encourage and say that what I was seeing in the mission action plan work would certainly serve as the basis for a plan. I think there's some really good stuff there. So I would not want to sell the hard work and the listening that was done in that report. And I think too, probably, one of the things that I heard, speaking for myself, was just some of those partnerships that are built with the other Anglican churches in Aurelia. And so my hunch is that as part of a plan, in order to ensure that ministry and community continues at St. David's, that those options of partnership between churches are also explored as well, so that we're kind of not lone wolf in this thing. Is that
Perfect.
some helpful, Lori?
Yes. Yeah. Vicky and Nancy. No, Vicky.
Hi, I just wanted to ask David, he mentioned some churches have completed the first phase. Could you expand on how many phases and what the guidelines are, or what is incorporated in each phase? Because I know Nancy did also speak of a plan. And I mean, my understanding was a year ago when all these folks worked their little butts off to get where we are, I thought that would be a great help, but it sounds like we have to go to the next plan and then these phases. So I'm unclear as to what we're supposed to be doing in these phases.
Yeah, sorry, Vicky. That was maybe a little bit of a lack of clarity on my part. So the phase piece was just a little bit of sort of inside language for where I work, and that was just a couple of phases around one of the things that your team identified as something you'd want to consider pursuing. So if, and I was reading the report, if one of the things you'd want to consider pursuing is following God where you are, is the possibility of redevelopment and like working with, community partners, whether it's social housing or other needs, ministries, etc. We have a sort of an inside process. There's like kind of a phase 1 assessment, and so you're basically contracting out to a professional that's like really experienced with this stuff. And so the first part is just doing a phase 1 assessment, and you're going to charge them $5,000 or whatever, and they're going to produce a report. And that's something that then a body like in our church, diocesan council, would say, okay, so we think this is worth pursuing. Let's figure out together how we're going to build a case to go to phase 2, which is like an actual like redevelopment. But that's the phase 1 and phase 2 was not related to the mission action plan. That was related to one of the things that you identified as something worth pursuing, and that's the redevelopment piece. That was my fault. I should have been a little bit more clear on that.
That was good. Helpful, right, Vic?
Yes, it was. Thank you very much, David.
Yeah, David has 2 feet in 2 different worlds, right? So he's from the diocese, from the office, but then his other foot gets firmly planted in all of these parishes where he's called to journey with us. So part of his heart lays here with us and what we're trying to accomplish, and so that's what's good about this, is because it's not us folks here doing this all by ourselves and then turning in the work to the diocese. That you are with us going through this process. David gives us, it gives us confidence, and it gives us hope, because we're just a bunch of folks who gather at a neighborhood church. Like this redevelopment and all of this other work it's not our wheelhouse. We just want to be a blessing of God's love to everyone that we encounter. So I don't know if anybody who came today thought there was just going to be an ABC, here's what we have to do and we're all good. That's kind of not how it works. There is ongoing work to be done. Are there any other?
Can I say one
Yes.
sort of one final thing? I think that's really helpful, Lori, and I'd almost want to bring it back to that first question or point that Ainsley raised at the beginning of this conversation. Part of my background is in finance, and I'm not an expert, but I've done work around property and other sort of asset based work before. But I think the helpful reminder that ultimately this is all about being church, about loving and serving our neighbors, and being the sort of family of God together. And so we're just doing this other stuff so that part is possible. So I think it's so helpful to continually remind ourselves that is ultimately what we're about. We're being church, we're being the body of Christ together with each other, and figuring out how to love and serve our neighbors. So just wanted to kind of loop that back there.
Yeah. Are we in the church business or are we in the God blessing business? Yeah, good. Anyone else have any other questions? If not, we'll let David march on to his next thing and we can carry on if we're good. Anybody, anything else? All right, David, thank you. Thank you for being with us this morning. Oh, are you saying goodbye, Catherine, or do you have a question?
No, I just, this particular item has a separate motion to accept the report. Motion, item number 15. It's the top of the page.
Yeah. We didn't have an actual motion. Could we, for item number 15, Judy, could we don't have a mover and a seconder for this, that the renewal team report be received and that it be forwarded to council for the continuation of the team's work. And, you know, maybe it's a time where we can, you know, reevaluate the team and evaluate and modify and move on. Can we give that work to council? I need not for council to do, but for council to just make sure that the team gets identified and it goes on with its work, if that's okay. We need a mover and a seconder. Anyone? A mover? Kathy O'Connor. Seconder, Ainsley, I saw. Okay, so that the renewal team report be received and that it goes back on council agenda. For further what's the word I'm looking for further work and research. Yeah. All right. All of those in favor? That looks like everyone. Anyone opposed? Okay. One. Do you want to say something, Rick, or you just, yeah. Any abstaining? Okay. All right. Thank you. Shall we say goodbye to David? And thank you, David, for being with us. We'll be in touch.
I look forward to it. So good to join you this morning. And I just pray that God continues to bless you, your community together, and the ministry you do. And I look forward to hearing more and look forward to seeing a plan submitted, see if we can go forward with this together. So until that time, we'll talk soon. Blessings.
Awesome. Thank you, David. All right. So we flip back to the agenda and we are at item number 6, the incumbents report. We are going to receive all of the reports together in one motion further down, but are there just any questions in regards to the incumbents report? All right, church records. Any questions about church records? There was a typo. That was my bad. For some reason, I wrote down Barry McKelvey, B-A-R-R-I-E. So it should be B-A-R-R-Y. And so please make a note of that. Are there any questions for the council chair's agenda report? And the other one then was the finance committee report. Okay, we're just whipping right on through. Motion, so the financial report for 2020, we're on number 10 on the agenda. Would this be the point where I turn over to Sheila? Because number 10 and 11 are going to be one motion later on.
Okay, I think it's the time to turn it over to me. The finance report that's in your Vestry report for 2020 was a preliminary report before the auditor had an opportunity to to go through it. So on Friday with the newsletter, I distributed the draft audited financial statements. Those now become the official financial statements for 2020. And as I explained in the newsletter, they go to the diocese, they go to the government. That supersedes what I put in the Vestry report because the auditor made a bunch of changes and bills came in after the end of the year that were for expenses in 2020. So that is the financial report for 2020, and we will have a motion to accept that later on. What I would like to draw so that's that number 10, the financial report for 2020. Are there any questions about it? Perfect. That's the way I like things to be. So moving on to number 11 is the budget for 2021. And there are a couple of errors in what was printed. If you go to page 10 and you look at the far right column, that's the 2021 budget. The lines are numbered. So the line 4330, other support. The budget says 8,700. It should say 14,500. And then at the bottom of that page, the very last number should not be 143,465. Cross that out. It should be 149,265. And then if you go to page 11, somehow the numbers did not get added up correctly. So the total expense, the second line from the bottom, should be 149,280. And the net income is then minus $15. Basically, it's zero. So what happened was after this was published, we realized that there had been an addition error. And so these are the adjusting entries. So what the Finance Committee is asking for approval of the budget, which is basically a balanced budget of just under $150,000 in revenue and just under $150,000 in expenses to balance for the year. So back to you, Lori.
All right. So it's moved by Rick Bates and seconded by Patsy Brown that we receive the financial statements for 2020 and approve the 2021 budget as amended and as presented by the treasurer. Are there any questions before we do the vote? Catherine.
I have a question on what our financial situation is right now. I don't know whether this is the right place to ask it, but Rick made a comment about there being somewhere around $33,000 available toward the roof. Yet I see a net income of $25,000 for the year. In actual, I'm not sure if that's the same in the auditor's report. I think it was pretty close. So I'd just like to know, how much money do we actually have that is not spoken for?
Sheila?
So it's always a moving target, of course, as revenue and expenses move back and forth. But we have sitting at the end of January, sitting in our bank account that was not for designated purposes, was just about $38,000. It costs us somewhere in the neighborhood of $11,000 a month to run the church. So if we got no more money at all and our expenses continued, we have about 3.5 months worth of cash sitting in the bank that's not designated. a rule of thumb is that we should be looking for about 2 months. So we've got some cash, you know, maybe it's $17,000, $18,000.
Catherine?
Thank you, Sheila. And I know it's always a moving target on that, but that's good to know. The costs of approximately $11,000 a month to run the church. I would like to question the comment from the auditor's report that states, basically says we are not viable. We are not. There's considerable doubt as to whether or not we can continue to operate. So I'd like some clarification on that as well. The item number 3 on page 12 of the auditor's report, and it actually sort of appears on page 1 of the auditor's report as well. Material uncertainty related to going concern. Can that be addressed, please?
Sheila? Oh, unmute.
Sorry, I thought I unmuted and I did the opposite. Yeah, that was a comment that he made last year as well. He, as part of his profession, he needs to look just at the numbers. And the numbers show that we're not taking in $11,000 a month on a regular basis through our offering plate. We get $3,000 from the school. So that means we need $8,000 for most months through the offering plate. And that's not always the case. And so he's saying and he knows we need to replace the roof, which is, you know, a big chunk of change and going to knock out that $37,000, $38,000 really, really fast. And so, and we've cashed GICs over the years. We've used them to pay for capital expenses, but so far we haven't used them for operating funds, but we're to the point now where we really don't have anything in reserve. We have a few $1,000s in reserve. So from his perspective, we've cashed our reserves. We're not consistently taking in what we need to cover our expenses through the offering plate, which is the primary means of our revenue stream. And so from a professional point of view, he has to say that. One of the audiences for his report, I mean, it's all of our congregation, and so it's good that you're paying attention to that because it's a concern. And when we presented an unbalanced budget last year, we were saying we don't know how we can do this, and yet we had some miraculous things happen in 2020. But the diocese looks at his report as well. And when we're making a case about we want some support, they will see that we need some support if we're going to continue to operate. So if I were running a business, I would really not want my auditor to have a notation about going concern. I would do everything possible to get that off there because it's a negative comment. But it's our reality of St. David, and we're not running a business. We're doing God's work. And so I think it's important to have that comment there, that it's recognized that we're putting things together with, you know, we're MacGyvering things to get things done, to do God's work.
Okay, Robert. Unmute, yeah.
as most people know, I spent most of my career in international development, and and I do have a background in finance. They're always in mutual contradiction. On the one hand, people worry about going concerns, and you're dealing with difficult countries. Another thing, I remember saying at one staff meeting, unless we're on the verge of a crisis, we're just not trying hard enough. The contradiction, and I did look at doing a CA at one point, chartered accountancy at one point. And, it's in the genes of a chartered accountant. They have to put that in. But they can't plan on miracles. They can't even pretend to plan on miracles. So I agree with Catherine that it's concerning, but I don't think it would, it should really worry us that they don't think we may not be a going concern. I think we should be assured that, something very special happened this year and we will be able to pay for certain things going forward. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Yes, Rick. Yeah, you'd think it would be so easy, eh? Just to unmute. Are you unmuted now? No. How is that so? Why does that give you such a hard time? See, Kathy O'Connor needs to teach us all sign language. We could get through this meeting. There you go.
There, are we on?
Yes, you go.
Oh, good. Forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Just going back to Catherine's question about the auditor, as Sheila pointed out, it was in the statements last year as well. And we are a faith community. Last year, when we adopted the budget, we figured we were going to be in the hole by $15,545 by the end of the year. We knew we had enough in reserves to cover that should that really happen. Well, if you look at the bottom of page 11, instead of being 15,000 in the negative, we came out last year 25,000 in the good. So there's a difference of 40,000. The auditor can't, as somebody said, can't go on wishes, but we do seem to go on prayer. And, that 40,000 basically is the difference between us going forward with a roof or not going forward with a roof. And I'm just saying that, we can show a balanced budget this year and not put the roof on, but I'll guarantee you the church will be ruined by the fall if we don't get a roof. But I guess the bottom line here is to the congregation, to Catherine, yeah, auditors have to be pessimistic. That's his view. It was his view last year, and we came through with flying colors. So I say we go again.
Okay. Catherine?
Thank you. I'm not disputing that. And yes, we came through with flying colors, but if this had not been a pandemic year, the picture would have looked a lot different. And I don't think we can just say, oh yeah, but look, there's a $40,000 difference between what we forecast and what we got, because a lot of that was thanks to the Jubilee, thanks to the CERB and other subsidies that we were able to apply for. So I think that has to be taken into consideration when we look at where we were in 2019, where we are today, and what it's going to be looking like going forward, because we're not going to get the same amount of subsidies and assistance. that we got in 2020.
Thank you. All right. Are we ready for the question that we adopt? Oh, sorry, that we receive the financial statements for 2020 and approve the 2021 budget as amended, as presented by the treasurer. All of those in favor? And any opposed?
No.
Awesome. All right, moving along. We have motion to accept 11B, the auditor's report. So it is moved by Rick Bates and seconded by Vicki Taylor that we accept the audit report for 2020. The auditor's report came a little bit into this previous discussion. Are there any other questions before we? Wasn't that a treat reading the auditor's report? Yes, yeah. For you who love those numbers, for the rest of us, it was very painful. Are we all good? Then all in favor of the auditor's report? Awesome. Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, we are on item number 12, appointments and elections for the year 2021. We're on page 13 of your report. Council members are elected and may serve up to 2 terms of 3 years each, after which a member must take off a minimum of 1 year prior to returning to council. All returning council members must be confirmed each year by Vestry in order to serve. Church council will elect from themselves a chair, a vice chair, and council secretary at the first regular council meeting following Vestry. So number 1, I, Lori Pulatsky, pastor, will not serve as a voting member on church council for the term. Number 2, let me sort, what are my other sheets? It is moved by Ann Uwaschuk and seconded by Nancy Bates that the confirmation of current council members, Vicki Taylor, her 6th year, so it's her last year of her 2nd term. Same for Shirley Johnson and same for Rob Beadle. We take Rick Bates off because he is in number 3. Ed Evans is in his 6th year, his last year of his 2nd term, and Ethan Hanna is our 3rd year youth member on council. Is everybody good with that? All in favor? Pause up, yes, okay, awesome. I think everybody had their hand up, so do I ask opposed, just in case? And abstaining. All right, we're on number 3. We have some nominations moved by Sheila Hamilton, seconded by Vicki Taylor, that we have Rick Bates as his 2nd term, year 4. Nancy Hanna would come on as her 1st term, 1st year, and Patsy Brown would be her 1st term, 1st year as well. Are there any other nominations? Nancy Hanna.
I'm not nominating anyone, but I have a question. So if you want me to wait, I'll wait.
You ask your question then in case.
Okay, so I totally agree to come onto council, but I also just want to recognize that my son is also on council. Rick and I talked about this. He assured me that there was nothing in the Constitution that prohibited both of us sitting on council at the same time, but I just wanted you all to just be aware of the fact that you would have two Hannahs on council at the same time. And I'm unclear as to when Ethan ages out as a youth member and becomes a regular member, because he is about to celebrate his 18th birthday.
Yeah, so he finishes his term. This will be his last term, and then he can come on as a regular member. Is that what I understand from the confirmation? Ethan's on for his 3rd year as a youth member. Yes, Rick?
21.
Oh, till age 21?
Right.
Okay. Well, Ethan's got a few more years in him yet before he hits the big 2-1. Okay, are there any other nominations for council? No, just, I know you all want to be there right at the place where all these great, wonderful decisions get made. Don't hurt each other, nominating one another. All right, then all those in favor of accepting the nomination, moved by Anne and seconded by Nancy. All in favor? Perfect. That's everybody's hand. So nobody, what's the word I'm looking for? Nobody opposes. And I read the wrong one. Moved by Sheila and seconded by Vicky Taylor. Sorry. We are down on number 4, bank signing authority. It is moved by Rob Beadle and seconded by Shirley Johnson. Vestry appoints the following people to have bank signing authority for the church: Rick Bates, Vicky Taylor, Sheila Hamilton, Patsy Brown, Catherine King. All in favor? Beautiful. That's everyone. Number 5, auditors, moved by Patsy Brown, seconded by Ann Ueschuk. Vestry appoints Sawatsky Professional Corporation, Devon Earl CPACA as St. David Church auditors for the year 2021. I don't know who else we would have, but all of those in favor? Excellent. We are on number 6, other appointments. We need a delegate for Anglican Synod and Lutheran Assembly. Anglican Synod is in November. It will be virtual, as is Lutheran Assembly, which is the end of June, and it will be held virtually as well. So the reps, anybody who's going to be nominated or take either of these positions, obviously you're going to need to have a computer and be able to be available for the days of the convention of the assembly. Do we have a volunteer to attend Anglican Synod?
I'm happy to attend either.
Okay, Ainsley? Yeah, is that okay with everyone? Awesome. All right. And what about Lutheran Synod, Lutheran Assembly in June? Anita Duffy was down to go last year, but she wasn't, I mean, it didn't happen, right? So, hands, we have Vicky, did you have your hand up too? Vicky and Catherine? Do both of you want to go?
I just wanted to speak to it, if I may.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Ainsley had said she would be willing to attend one of them. I think the Lutheran Synod would be awesome for Ainsley to attend if that's okay with Vicky. And if Vicky wants to do November for the Anglican, I'm all for that. I didn't necessarily,
No.
I was scheduled for this year. It didn't happen this year, but I'm quite all right if there's somebody that wants to attend.
Okay.
So Nancy Hannah?
Right, so I saw Vicky shake her head no to Anglican, but you're willing to do Lutheran?
No, yes, I did say that, but if Ainsley would like to do the Lutheran, that is fine with me. I don't have a problem. But I did the Anglican one, the last time there was one I did it. So I would like to pass from that one.
But you would do Lutheran if Ainsley agreed to do Anglican?
Absolutely.
Ainsley, good with you?
Yep, I'm 51, 50 the other. Doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
Okay, so Ainsley is doing Anglican and Vicky is doing Lutheran.
Okay.
All right, thank you. At this point, the Huronia deanery doesn't really have a rep anymore. So it's, it's the three clergy, Barry, Midland, and me. Yes, Judy McKay.
Do we need a motion and a seconder for those appointments? We did last time. She's on mute.
Lori, turn on your microphone.
Thank you, Judy. So Ainsley, may I have a mover and a seconder for Ainsley going to Anglican? Okay, I saw Ed and Kathy O'Connor. So Ed and Kathy seconded. Can we get you to move both of those?
Yeah.
Awesome. So they move that Ainsley attend Anglican and Vicky attend the Lutheran. All of those in favor. Excellent, thank you.
I just have another question.
Claire, yep, go ahead.
Sorry, inevitably both of those churches will potentially be looking for youth delegates to go as well. So Ethan, I'm wondering if you would be interested in going as a youth delegate for either of those. You can look at your calendar and answer later at council if you like.
I'll absolutely go. I'm
awesome.
Sure, assuming that my calendar is fine, but I'm sure it is.
Yeah, it's a Friday and a Saturday, June 24th and 25th, I believe.
I think I'm still young enough to be counted as a youth delegate, but as I'm turning 30 this year, I feel like I'm aging out. I'm just going to make that executive decision.
Yes. Well, we have some other youth coming up too, Meadow and Elizabeth, and yeah, we'll get there. But we'll certainly put Ethan to work. All right, thank you, everyone. Number 7, the council appointments. Church Council, in conjunction with the incumbent, has appointed the following persons to these positions. Our council secretary is Judy McKay. Our envelope secretary, Judy McKay. Our music director, organist is Brent Mayhew. Our sexton is Rick Bates. Our treasurer is Sheila Hamilton. And is this vestry clerk for this year? Because wouldn't that be Judy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So vestry clerk, Judy McKay. Do those all have a motion?
Don't need a motion.
Oh, perfect. They're appointments. Awesome. Okay. We move on to, where are we? Number 13?
Could I just make an observation?
Please.
I noticed you're using the word sexton, but we don't have a graveyard attached to the church, so technically it's a verger. I'll shut up now.
Technically a witch?
Technically, it's a verger, not a sexton. Sexton is the person when the church has a graveyard attached to it. I'll shut up now. I'm being anal, I know.
It's all good. It's all good. All right, we are on number 13, the motion to vestry. It is moved by Rick Bates and seconded by Shirley Johnson that, item 13, sorry.
Well, you got it.
Is that right? The motion to vestry? Revision to council bylaw.
Yep, that's it.
Oh, there it is. It was on the back of the other sheet. That's what threw me off, sorry. So the motion to vestry, as I said, moved by Rick Bates, seconded by Shirley Johnson, that we adopt bylaw 2/2021, a bylaw to provide for virtual council meetings during a declared emergency, like what we've been doing. All of those in favor? Excellent. So dated this 21st February of 2021, and I will sign that as well as Judy McKay. Okay, how are we doing? Elections, motion to vestry, that's what we just did. Motion to vestry on social justice. It is moved by Rob Beadle and seconded by Sandy Donald that the proposed motion by the Bishops' Committee regarding social justice be referred to our outreach committee for a recommendation. Every year, the diocese puts together a social justice motion. I think it's a fabulous idea. Quite honestly, I think they come too fast and furious. A year is not enough for a parish to get into, to get into some of this work. So, which was why we had said we're going to forward this to outreach so that they can come up with some ideas and lead us in some workshops or in some opportunities to do some further learning. Anyone have any questions, or are we ready for the vote? All those in favor? Perfect, thank you. Everybody had their hands up, I do believe. No opposed? Okay. We are on number 15. We already did that. We are on presentation of all other reports. So if you look to the end of the annual report, you will see that there are a whole lot of committees that just said something like, we met and then we closed down and weren't able to do anything for the rest of the year. So we're taking all of those items together, items 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 16. And it's moved by Louisa Jensen, seconded by Patsy Brown, that the congregation receive all reports submitted to the annual general meeting of Vestry held February 21st, 2021. All in favor? Excellent. All right. Number 17, new business. The first one is a recommendation by council of the fixing of the roof. Where is that? Oh, we did that one. Item 17A. I will let Rick lead us off on that. You were already unmuted, so.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
That's okay.
To the congregation, you're well aware that the roof is in poor condition and has to be replaced. Wayne Scanlon's not sure it's going to get us through the spring of this year. And if it does start leaking, it certainly will do a lot of damage to the church. I went to council with this and they authorized it, of course, coming to Vestry because it's a major expenditure. So I know the question will come up where the money's coming from. So we'd like to do the roof. There's places where the fascia and soffit need repair, and all the eave troughing on the original church building is pretty much rusted out. So I'm not expecting the price tag to go over 50,000, but the intent is to get that from Vestry, approval to spend up to that, and then council will deal with the individual contracts. So just so you're aware, we do have money. This is what I sent to council. Now they've been adjusted a bit by the auditor, but as of the end of December, we had 11,000 in the building fund. Now Patsy and Jean raised most of that for a floor inside in the large hall downstairs, but there's I think now 12,000, was 11,000 at the end of the year. The building fund has, the Desjardins and Creaser funds have approximately 10,000 each in them. The Memorial Fund, 3,000. And last year's money that we were over budget brought in more than we spent last year is about 33,000. That comes up to 57,000. Now that's subject to some final number crunching by the, now that the auditor has reported, but I would suggest there's enough money in our accounts that we can cover the roof. One question came up, if we only do the south and west side, how much cheaper would it be? And it will be approximately 11,000 less to do half the roof than the whole roof. And I'm recommending against it, one, because that north half will probably be ready for replacement in the next 3 to 4 years. And if you have to replace it, you have to replace all the capping on the entire building. So I'd suggest that if we do it all now and spend about 40 in place of spending 11 less now, and probably it's going to be between 15 and 18 in a few years to do it. So as I said, we have the money. I know we fly by the seat of our pants in the church with our finances, but I am recommending that we proceed with roof replacement.
Okay, I'll start with Catherine.
Thank you. Rick, could you please go over those numbers again? You said 11 to 12,000 in the building fund. I didn't get the combination for Desjardins and Creaser, nor the memorial, nor the cash on hand.
I just closed my staff report. Okay, at the end of the year, the end of December, we had 11,000 in the building fund, a little over 10,000 in the Desjardins and Creaser funds, 3,000 in the memorial fund, and we had about 33,000 as a surplus from last year, which totaled 57,000.
Catherine?
Thank you. So what I'm hearing is that in order to replace the roof, it is going to wipe out all our money and we will have no contingency for anything else that goes wrong in the future. Why are we not looking at getting our act together and getting going after grants to help us with the cost of this?
I can respond, Madam Chair. Grants are not out of the question on this. we will go after any money we can find, and we still may have to put a bit of a campaign on with the members of the church. My problem is that we put it off last year. The roof could start leaking once spring arrives this year, and we really can't wait much longer. So I guess, you know, to put a gun at everybody's head, we either put the roof on now and we have the year to work at it, or we you know, let the roof leak and close the church, because once water starts coming in, I don't have to tell you how much damage it's going to do. So that's the concern from the property committee's point of view.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Nancy, Hannah?
Also, so in order for us to get those grants, we do have to show that financially we're willing to put up some or all or close to all of that money. But I think we can make a case to say that if, you know, if it comes down to it that we have to pay for all of it ourselves, it puts us in a financial precarious position. So I think that there's an opportunity definitely for us to go with, if it's not diocesan grants, we can definitely go to our area council for some area grants. They give those types of grants out all of the time, but we do have to show as a congregation that we are willing to put up some of that money, if not all of it, because of the importance of what needs to be done. So that's all I have to say about that. And then the Creaser Fund in the report, the financial report that Sheila gave us in Desjardins Investments. Rick, you said there's $10,000 there, but Sheila's designated reports say 4,600. Am I reading that incorrectly?
No, you're reading it right. It's Desjardins and the Creaser funds combined were 10,000. Now the auditor at the end of the year, my report was based on December 2020. The auditor, if you read his financial statements, he moved the Creaser fund out of the restricted into the general funds, which was a motion of Vestry last year. So that may be why you're reading it differently. If you take the two and added them together, you'd get over $10,000.
Vicki Taylor, and then Catherine.
Hi, I just want to reiterate what Rick said. Time is not on our side right now. And I agree, we can certainly look at those grants, but I know we would not have them written and returned before the roof would start to leak. So I'm in full support of going ahead with this roof. And if all else fails, the good Lord will give this building to somebody that has a brand new roof.
Yes, Catherine.
I have a question about the use of the memorial fund. People have given in memory, were there any attachments to that? Do we put a plaque on one of the shingles on the roof? This is a memorial fund, and I question whether it should be used on the roof.
Through the chair, maybe, I don't know if Sheila can put her hands on, but the audit report, when I read it, allows us to use that memorial fund. I can't remember the terminology he used, but I don't have the report in front of me, but it is a fund that can be used for major expenditures.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm struggling too, but it is, it was an internally restricted fund, meaning that it's not really a restricted fund. It means we can use it for whatever purposes.
And I think we have done that with like the most of our memorials, because that got faith communities into a lot of predicaments. You know, when Fred and Hermanetta died, they wanted a stained glass window or whatever, but there were no more stained glass windows to be had. And so then, the money ended up staying there and could never be redesignated because it was designated for a stained glass window. And I don't know, I guess they had to wait till either one of them broke or, you know, used it for the fixing up, but there again, right? So we try and encourage people to make their donation to the organization and trust the organization to use the finances where they need to be used.
I just want to make sure that Rob Beadle's question gets addressed. He had his hand up for a little bit there.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, yes, in a different way. Basically, in order to have any options whatsoever, we have to fix the roof. We have to address the roof, and we can't wait any longer, which is why I'm seconding Rick's motion. And I know that underneath the roof, it's been covered up, but there are very elaborate wooden laminated beams under there. And if the water ever gets into those, we're in really, I mean, like Rick says, we will be in a situation of having to close down. If the water starts to separate that lamination, and you're looking at beams that are like 3 or 4, more than a meter. And if the water gets in to that,
you'll also get black mold, and good luck if you've got that. You might as well just close your doors. So it has to be addressed, I think.
It's sort of like Notre Dame Cathedral. Going to be a big effort.
Yeah. Any other questions? Or yes, Rick?
Yes, and I apologize to Vestry. One thing I didn't point out is I recommended to council that the steeple be taken down. One roofer I talked to said, yeah, it's ready to come down. Another roofer I talked to says, well, let's wait till we get up on the roof and see how structurally sound it is. So the steeple may be there and the steeple may not be there. I haven't budgeted any money to repair it. The structure itself is all made out of copper, which means it would be a horrendous price to replace. So anyway, there's council's going to have to make that determination once we get up on the roof and see what's there. So just so everyone is aware, I'm not sure where we are going with the steeple at this point.
Thank you, Rick. There are clarions too, right? A whole bell tower in and of itself. So, hey, the future, anything's possible. Are we ready to, Catherine?
Thank you. I'm not comfortable with the recommendation and the motion the way it reads. I would like to ask if the mover and seconder would consider adding to that we concur that council's recommendation to replace the church roof, but that council must actively seek and go after all and any grants that are available to assist us with the cost. So that it's in there that we don't say, okay, yeah, we can replace the roof and well, we'll worry about getting a grant written up proposal, but that it be in there that council will actively seek to search out and apply for grants to assist with the cost.
Yes, Rick?
Yes, just on that matter. I think we gave you an undertaking we would do that. We would look for grants. But I think to actively seek all grants, what are all grants? We have no idea what all grants are. So I would oppose the suggested to change the motion.
Yes. Ainsley?
Just a question for applying for grants. Are we able to apply for grants within, say, the next month? I mean, Spring Melt comes in March, April. Are we able to apply for grants now, pay for the work done on the roof, and be granted after the work has been done? Or does the grant need to be secured according to the rules of the grant before the work is done? Because I'm aware this is a ticking clock.
I have already reached out to the group in Penetanguishene, so we are going to investigate any grants. You know, one of the members from there sits on one of the grant committees for the diocese. So the plan is to pick her brain and have her help us with any applications. So, I mean, we recognize the price tag, and we definitely are going to try to come up with whatever options we have to help offset that cost through grants. You know, we may even decide at some point to do like a GoFundMe page or whatever. So Ed and then Rick.
I just want to say at times that you're driving down the road and you get a flat tire and it's flat and you're stuck on the side of the road and you got to get that tire fixed right away. You got to get a tow truck, get towed somewhere, get the tire fixed right away because it's time is an essence. And I think with this roof, even though it's going to take a bite out of us, we can make up the difference later on down the road. If it's an emergency and it's going to affect that, it's going to make more damage later on if we don't fix it now. I think it's a now thing that we need to do. Behold, now's the day of salvation. Get it done now. Why procrastinate? Get the work done so we do more damage to the church that we need to. That's going to cost us more in the long run.
Thank you, Ed. Then Rick.
Thank you to the chair. As far as grants are concerned, we have, anytime we hear of a grant, we do try to go after that grant. Now, even at the last council meeting, we heard of another fund through the Toronto Diocese, Anglican Diocese, and Vicky went and investigated it. And yeah, there was money for things like roofs and boilers and things like that, provided you'd been contributing to a Anglican foundation. So we really don't know all the grants are out there. We don't have anybody professionally looking for grants for us because we just don't have anybody that heads that up. But when we do hear, we do apply. But I don't think we're going to be successful with grants. And I only say that because I've been with the Anglican Church for over 50 years, and money never seems to flow two ways with the Anglican Church. And maybe I shouldn't have said that because the bishop will be watching the Vestry meeting. But anyway, I don't know how successful we're going to be with grants, and it is one of these things that we got to get on with. And if we hear of anything, we'll certainly track it down if we can. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, can we go back to the moved by Rick Bates, seconded by Rob Beadle, that we concur with council's recommendation to replace the church roof, eaves, troughing, fascia, and soffits at an estimated cost of $50,000. All in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Abstaining? And we're good. Okay, that was it. We have any other new business? Then we have opportunity to do our adjournment and our closing worship. Before we do that, I just want to thank y'all. This is not the most comfortable way for us to meet, and it certainly is challenging when we're just all little boxes on a screen. But I just appreciate each and every one of you for trying and doing this so that we could at least come together and have these conversations and get the business done that needs to be done. So thank you all so very, very much. Let's move to the closing of our meeting. Yes, Kathy O'Connor. Unmute.
I move that we adjourn.
Oh, do we have to have a motion? Thank you.
Look at, if it's not on the sheet, I didn't. Thank you. Motion to adjourn made by Kathy O'Connor, seconded by Catherine King. Everybody can unmute. We'll do the closing litany, and Sheila mentioned something about staying on to chit chat after, so we can certainly do that.
Tell you all about the two upstairs.
Let us pray. Faithful God, we thank you for seeing us safely through another year.
We trust in your faithfulness
to
be with us
this
coming year.
Hopeful God, you continue to show us the vision of a future of justice, peace, and mercy.
Empower us with your hope and lead us into your ways of righteousness.
Loving God, we give you thanks for your presence with us this day. Fill us
with your love so that we may embody your love in all we do this year.
In your holy name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Go in peace, faithful, hopeful, and loving.
Thanks be to God.
Bye.
Yay!
Bye,
guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Anybody who wants to stick around, I'll leave the meeting open.
All right. Thank you.
Even get rid of the thing after I leave.
Yeah. Everybody, thank you guys for showing up.
Kathy, do you want me to keep recording?
No, I think you can stop recording.
No.
Done.
All right.